Yeah.
My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
And welcome into Judd's Hockey Show. We're back at full strength this week after we were down a forward last week. Jessi Pierce is back. Of course, you can find her Bardown Beauties podcast, which is out, I think, still every week, right, Jessi?
Every week,
still producing
unless
one
I
with Kirsten?
forget to do it. Yeah.
Unless you forget to do it. And AJ Fredrickson, who, of course, is along for the ride each and every week as well, producing and co-hosting. He does a great job. And today, so the season's not done yet, which is a topic I'd like to get to at the end of this podcast. The season's not done yet. The draft begins or is a week from Friday, first round, and then rounds 2 through 7 are on Saturday. And then a couple days after that, free agency begins. Now, the Wild is not exactly flush with cap space, but just to paint the picture here before I turn it over to AJ with some lists of potential or a list of potential free agents that the Wild could pursue, the cap has gone up. So the Wild is going to have a little bit of room here. I am looking here for what they're going to have, and Cap Friendly is listing their cap space at $6.3 million, which is not a ton because of the fact that there is still the $14.7 million combined on the buyouts of Parise and Suter. And so the Wild's cap hit right now, according to this website, $81.7 million, which is the fourth least in the entire league. So AJ, without further ado, your assignment was to come up with a list of some potential free agents the Wild could pursue on July 1, of course, being realistic. That means no Jake Gensel. That means no higher end guy. So give Jessi and I some names, and then we can immediately crap on the entire list and say there is no way that we would sign any of these guys.
Yes, there's a couple in here that I'm throwing in for the sake of just, you kind of have to bring them up. First off, something to note about that 6.3 mil that you mentioned, Judd, they still have a few guys that they're going to have to consider their options for, mainly Mason Shaw. He's an RFA this year. Do they want to pick him up for another? If they do, I bet you that's pennies on the dollar. You're getting him for more than likely league man. Jake Lucchini is a UFA this season. And then on the defensive side, Alex Goligoski, which I would sure hope that there's nothing being allocated that way. Dakota Mermis is a UFA, and Declan Chisholm, who you claimed off waivers, is an RFA, along with a small handful of AHL minor league guys. So you don't have this full $6.3 million to just kind of spend. You're going to have to chip away at that and kind of use whatever's left. So to start things off here, we're going to head to the left wing market.
Okay.
And with that, we're going to start old and just get it out of the way. And just get it off Jessi's plate right away.
Let's go.
David Perron.
No.
6 foot, 195 pound left winger. He is going, he's 35 right now. This is a man who had 47 points last year. He's coming off a cap hit of 4.75 mil. And just to reference this, I am using my friends over at Dauber Hockey, who have a list of the top 100 free agents, whether they're RFAs or UFAs, for what their projected cap hit will be on their upcoming contracts next season. They're projecting him to make $2.1 million. That's pretty affordable. It's right in the Wild's wheelhouse. And it feels like this guy is someone that has been linked to the Wild, whether it's been free agency, trade deadline, for 4, 5, 6 years. Is this the year they finally complete the link, bringing Perron to Minnesota? Jessi, is this the year?
The reason I hate it is because it's something I'm sure Bill Guerin absolutely loves the idea of, right? An aging veteran who's been a part of rebuilds. He's won a Stanley Cup with the St. Louis Blues. He's still got some gas in the tank. I don't want it. I don't want it at all. I don't care. He is old. I don't care. I'm over it. Yes, you could probably get him at 2.5 maybe for a 2 year. So about one, a little over one a year. Mm-hmm. I don't want it. I just don't. I'm done with the people over 30. I don't want anybody that's even close to 30. Keep them young. I don't want it. Please. But
age discrimination here. Come on, Pierce. You're like 33 or something.
We have enough of that in the locker room. I have enough people that I can talk to about, the 90s with that weren't born in the 90s necessarily. I don't need another
you and
one that is
Faber.
exactly my age. Exactly. I do. I think that's what scares me the most is there's a very realistic possibility that Bill Guerin absolutely goes for it because David Perron, there are worse players out there, but there are so many more better free agents available at a decent cost as well. So please pass Billy G, but I can imagine he's been sniffing around that pretty seriously this offseason.
If Perron's gonna take up playing time from a kid, no, then
Yes.
I don't want, you got to play your kids. Like this is the last year of cap hell. And yes, it's not as bad as it's been previously because the cap has been increased, for this league significantly to the $88 million level. But no, I want your kids playing. I want your kids playing. You need to this is another year to take a very important look-see and make decisions. And Perron, ultimately, I think at the end of the day, would be Pat Maroon too, which is you'd get to March and trade him for a 7th-round pick. I would far prefer your kids play than you acquire a 7th-round pick in March. So I'm Team Pierce here. No, I have no interest in going. Now, if this was a different time period, if this team was contending and could use a locker room guy, yeah, I could have this talk. But no, I don't want anything that's going to cause a coach not to play the kids because I've got the veteran here. I am totally with Pierce.
Grab
I'm
him
totally
at
with
deadline
Jessi.
then. He's a deadline guy. Go grab him at deadline. That's fine.
Well, if
you're
yeah.
in that position,
But you're going to trade him at the
care.
deadline, right?
Yeah,
Like that.
right.
That's another guy you're going to trade, and I don't want a 7th-round pick at the expense of a kid I should have been playing.
All right. There's going to be a theme here you notice too. As we're going to go to option number 2, another left wing, 29-year-old Jonathan Drouin. He's coming off a 56-point season, 19 goals, 37 assists. His best season since 2018-19. Is this the replacement for Marcus Johansson on that left wing on the second line? Could it be Jonathan Drouin?
I don't hate it. Right? He's under 30. He's what, 28, 29 years old. So
29
he's underneath.
He's 29
my-
years old. He's making 825K right now. It's projected to make $2.5 million with his
He's gonna
upcoming
make-
deal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
he's
definitely gonna make
due. I
more.
mean, he had a good season, as you'd mentioned, Age. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I like the idea that you have there coming in saying we're going to limit Marcus Johansson. We're going to squish down that ice time for JoJo, who is stuck with this team for at least another year unless you move him. But so if Jonathan Drouin is an answer, I'd like to see what could be. I mean, I think there's a strong possibility. He's had a solid season. He was 3rd overall by the Tampa Bay Lightning, so he's certainly grown into his game, which I think is really good. I like it. I don't hate. That's a good one, Age. You redeemed yourself from bringing me Perron, which I had mentioned to you last night I was going to hate, but I'm not going to poo-poo on Jonathan Drouin.
I don't know that he would necessarily want to come here.
True.
I think he gets a multi-year contract now. And I think he probably goes to a team where he can feel like he can contend immediately, perhaps. It's better than Perron. I don't think it's necessarily a fit here at this point in time. I'm wondering what he does get ultimately, because I don't think he's going to take a 1-year discount deal again, especially to come here. So I don't think it's a fit right now, but yes, as far as a name goes and like an option, it seems far more palatable. So I'll put it in that, but I think it's a long shot more from his side too. Cause I think he tries to go back with the Avs, right? That's where he played this year. I think he tries to go back with the Avs, or he goes to a team that it's going to be a contender. And he did find a pretty nice role there. It feels like he had issues fitting in previously, despite the talent, and he found a nice role there. So I don't know what the Avs cap flexibility is like, but that seems like a place that he probably would try to look to go back to if he can get, let's say, a 3-year deal.
I mean, the thing about him too would be there are a lot of players like him out there. So that's also going to hurt his market value, right? As far as what he is going to have. So he's going to have to be at least fair to the teams as well. He's going to have to consider that because it's a career year for him, but he's 29, as we said. And is that going to be
30.
replicated? Can you put that in there? Yeah, he's almost
Yeah.
30. He's almost there. So there's something to be considered too. So he might be willing to take a better deal if it pushes on longer into free agency, because he's certainly not one of the top free agents heading into the summer.
All right, third on my list, and the most expensive guy I have for you today. I brought him up to both of you, actually. Tyler Bertuzzi. He's coming off a down year with the Maple Leafs. 21 goals, 22 assists for 43 altogether. But I think he kind of brings that physicality, that grit that a guy like Billy G is probably looking for in this Wild locker room, especially after the comments we heard at the season wrap-up from Ryan Hartman, where he brings that you walk onto the ice at XCEL Energy Center, you're like, okay, I got this kind of stinks. I got to go against Tyler Bertuzzi for 20 minutes or, and some change every night. So he's gritty. He's physical. He's had a scoring touch. If you go back to that final year that he had in Detroit, that was pretty solid. But he kind of brings an all-around game that I think the Wild would appreciate. He is currently making $5.5 million, but they're projected for him to fall a little below 5 to about 4.75 or 4.8.
I like it. I like Tyler Bertuzzi. I like what he brings, as you had mentioned, everything to his game. He's skilled. He was playing top line minutes for the Toronto Maple Leafs in the playoffs there. He gets under people's skin, which I'm always a big fan of. But yeah, he's going to be expensive. And I think you have plenty of teams. I could see him really fitting in well with Nashville or the Red Wings in particular. Like those two teams I could see itching for a guy like Bertuzzi, and Bertuzzi obviously has his relationship with Detroit going back to the beginning of the years. I love it. I don't know that Billy Guerin can swing it. I think if you make some extra moves and maybe trade guys like Philip Gustafson and give yourself another 3.75 mil, maybe you could do it. But I think because I could see him easily slotting into a top 6 role without question.
Yeah, I'm not sure the projection that his salary goes down is accurate. I think he still has attributes for sure, and as both of you talked about, he plays with a definite edge that I think managers love. So yeah, I think a year from now, if he was to hit the market, Bill Guerin might love this. I don't think they can afford it. But it definitely strikes me as a Guerin type of player. Unless there's things I don't know about off the ice, his approach on it seems like, because he's got talent, but he also has a bit of an FU to his game that I think Guerin probably would like. But unfortunately, I don't think it's a fit from a financial standpoint, Jessi.
He feels like an elevated Ryan Hartman, kind of like right in between like a Jules Eriksson and Ryan Hartman, right? As far as that grit and that tenacity, and then the skill level to compete as well. So I think it'd be fantastic. But yeah, I agree. I think he's still probably going to look for that 5 to 6. It would be great if it goes down, but even then, it's a little spendy for Bill Guerin's pocketbook this summer.
And it's probably at least a 4-year contract.
You'd think so, right?
Yeah.
Which
would be fine. I wouldn't mind locking up a guy like that for term, right? Like I'd be okay with it. But again, there's other pieces that you have to factor in down the line here yet as well.
Yeah, and to note about like the projected salary and everything like that, obviously it's free agency for everybody listening. It's a bidding war, so this is they're estimating what would probably get the job done, but it's obviously going to be typically a little bit higher than some of these numbers. And next on the list, this guy has been, I was shocked looking at his hockey reference page because he's 29. He's 28, and I was shocked by how many teams he's been on already. Anthony Duclair. He's a left winger. He started off with the Sharks last season. He ended up, after getting traded, with 42 points on the year, 24 goals, 18 assists. He's a pretty silky skater, and we know how much that earned for JoJo on that second line, the elite skating ability of Marcus Johansson. This could be a nice little left-handed substitution there. And imagine what he could do starting game 1 with a guy like either Boldy or Zuccarello opposite wing of him. So Anthony Duclair, he's making $3 million right now. They're suggesting he stays about 3.3 mil with his upcoming deal.
I like it. I don't mind it. However, red flag. The amount of teams that you've played for always is going to be very, very telling, right? There's something going on there. I remember the Sharks had played here right before the trade deadline, and it was pretty evident that Duclair was going to be on the go. He was kind of one of the higher sought trade pieces that San Jose had. Seems like a decent guy. I don't know, but it does that. Just that's the biggest red flag for me is you've played for a number of teams. What was the problem? Because you are, as you'd mentioned, AJ, hell of a skater and a very solid player. And he's played for some very good teams, right? He played for the Lightning, obviously, the Florida Panthers too. I mean, what was the misfit there? What was not working? So I think that's would be my biggest question that would have to be vetted out before I was kind of all in exploring that option.
Yeah, I guess my question is that what's the background? Now, I could see him though getting a short-term deal, and not breaking the bank. So is this a player that because of his age, the Wild would look to take a look at? And then again, if you're not in playoff contention, Duclair has regularly bounced to a team that is going to be in contention. But the movement strikes me as a guy that Guerin probably wouldn't want to touch. Like I think he's big into the chemistry and things like that. And while we don't know why he seemingly has bounced around so much, GMs know and teams know. So my guess is no. But this one, at least, I like more than the Perron because it's a younger player comparatively, correct? And the number one thing is I want to what Jess said before as well. I want the Wild to practice age discrimination on players. I don't need more. It's not a time for old players. This is not a team. There's times for that. This is not a time. There is no reason that the 2024-25 Wild should repeat the maroon bye. The maroon bye did them no good.
Yeah, you want to enter training camp with giving your younger players an opportunity,
Yes.
not blockading them, as you mentioned earlier, Judd, right? And they already have kind of done that with some of the extensions and with some of the guys that are put in place.
You've done enough.
You can't do it anymore.
Yeah,
This
don't give
offseason,
John Hines
please.
the ability to be like, I want to rely on my veteran. No, no, that's fine if that's, but I'm not worried about you, Johnny. I'm worried about your players.
Yes.
All right. Next
tough
for me, next on the list is Jacob DeBrusk playing with Boston. He's not played with any other team in his career. He's 27 years old. He's set to make probably about that $4 million mark. The problem with him is he's 27, so he's probably going to look for not a 1 or 2 year deal. He's going to want a little stability. So this would require, to Jesse's point a guy or two ago, a Gustafsson or some other type of move that opens up so that you can ink him long term. But when it comes to DeBrusk, he's once again, he kind of fills the boxes of what the Minnesota Wild probably want. He's coming from a winning culture out there, that mentality of the Boston Bruins, that kind of like F you attitude. We know how to play, and we're going to make you take it, whether it's a hard 60 minutes of hockey or we have to kind of finesse it around you. He's a decent like depth scorer, and how many times did we say there was no depth in this lineup over the last season? He's 27, so he's got enough legs on him to where I think if you ink him a couple years down the road, there really is no issue with that. And he hasn't had, to my knowledge, any injury bugs and whatnot that have kind of hampered his career so far out with the Bruins. So he's physical. He's able to show off the skill here and there. And I mean, he's a guy that you're not going to maybe have the spotlight on every single night, but he is wow, I am so glad as we take stock like halfway through the year, Jake DeBrusk has maybe been like that unsung hero.
I'm kind of, not to be wishy-washy, I'm kind of, I don't know.
That's
There was a
fine.
regression this year, right? You go back to the year prior where he had 50 points in 64 games. And this year in 80, he only had 40. So my big question mark is kind of like what happened there. Now, regressions are going to happen. It is what it is, right? But it was also like he had the same amount of ice time. What happened there? Is he going to be able to get to that 30 goal mark? I want a player that can score consistently, right? I need a guy that can at least get into 20. He only had 19 goals last year. I would like to see a 30 goal scorer come this way. Now, granted, again, that's going to come at a cost, and Jake DeBrusk is kind of going to be probably a little pricey, as you mentioned, and he's going to want term. You know what else comes with that? It's probably a no move and probably a no trade as well. So if that's the case, then I definitely don't want it. I'm going to go on that side. I don't know. Again, I'd kick the tires on it, maybe, because I think there's a quality player there. But it's still some questions that I would definitely want explored. Again, mostly what happened this year, what was the difference maker, and what kind of term is he looking at?
I'm a no. One, I think he gets paid. I think he gets a multi-year contract and gets paid. Two, he's had some weird circumstances. Now he's with Boston, which is a, as far as I can tell, model franchise as far as like the room goes. You know, Marchand is a weird dude, but as far as I can tell, a great captain. Pasta's there. And DeBrusk has had some ups and downs there, personality-wise, I feel like, with management. I don't know fully how those stand, and he did bounce back a year ago and play well. But my point is, I'm not going to give a guy like that term and money, and then foist him on this team. Like the Wild is still, how can I put this nicely? They're still pretty delicate. Like this ain't the Bruins' room. And I don't know what his problems have been, but I also don't want to pay him and then be like, ooh, boy. And Jessi, you're 1,000% right. All of these now come with no move, no trade. So I am honestly out on this one based on what I think the price is and based on what I don't know about the personality. It scares me too much.
All right. But another you're probably going to have to, like, this is the one move and that's it, along with the other, like, small what and what's nots. Tyler Toffoli is going to be hitting the market. This is a guy that can play in the middle and out wide, really on either side. He's 32, so if we're practicing age discrimination, then this is an immediate no-go. But he's a guy that you're probably going to be able to get like that 2 to 3 years at a decent cap hit to where his goal scoring, I think, is going to trump anything age-wise for the next couple of years because he's really shown no signs of slowing down. He's been kind of, over the past 3-4 seasons, the perennial trade deadline guy where he gets moved last second. And you can knock him for that, but you can also, on the other side of the coin, say teams want that goal scoring. You know, it's not his fault for being on a poor team at the deadline if the roster around him is bad. So maybe the Wild end up being that first half team that that move him and keep the train moving, or he is the piece that finally gets them a little more depth and it's not just one line. So Tyler Toffoli looking to be at about 3.5 to 4 mil at the age of 32.
He would get my age exemption card if the Minnesota Wild could afford it, though. They can't. There's too many teams that are going to be in on him. There's no way Minnesota rises to the top on that. Now, crazier things have happened. Parisi and Suter, because I remember I never thought the Minnesota Wild were going to get their way there either. Yeah. But I think they're going to have to bow out. I think you've got too many teams that he could make an immediate impact with who are going to be able to utilize him to their full extent. The Rangers, you've got the, like how the Devils could figure out a way to keep him around, right? So I think, no, I'm going to pass for that reason, just because I think there's no way Minnesota gets a fighting chance amongst the pool of teams.
This is going to sound crazy as well, but my question with a guy like that is whose playing time does he take as well? Because he won't be here long term. Mm-hmm. So like Toffoli's the type of player that I think you add if you are serious about contending. Like if you think, okay, because like the Devils, who he started last year with, thought that they were going to contend, had a disappointing year and traded him to the Jets, who were contending. I don't think he's the type of guy that you add, and I don't think he wants to go to a place where it's like, hey, come join the party, and eventually it's going to start. This one would, a year from now, this one might really intrigue me. But right now, I'm not sure. And by the way, too, you know what's going to happen when training camp starts. The Wild is going to point to Marcus Johansson's great World Championship performance and tell us all to buzz off, and that Marcus Johansson, there's no reason why he can't play like that, and that he's going to start as a top 6, and I am going to absolutely go ballistic. So like, this whole thing, I love the thought of his playing time decreasing, and no, they're going to say, oh, look how he played in the World Championships. That's the JoJo that we know can play. Oh my God. Sorry, I just had to say it.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I got one
more.
more.
Throw my media badge on the ice and storm out. I will be like, this is enough.
Turn it in. Just turn it in and say, I can't watch this crap anymore.
Slide it across.
Yep.
All right. I've got one more forward before we a couple defensemen. Last one here is somebody who's, you could argue, is coming off a down year, but solely because they had a pretty significant injury hiatus last season. 31-year-old Victor Arvidsson. He's going to be a free agent. He had 15 points in 18 games last season. They're expecting, because of the injury, to probably have a big dip, and he's going to be looking for a deal that could be 1 or 2 years to rebound, show what he can do, and then cash in when he's, in that final like 32 and on or 33 and on in his career. I think this is a guy that you should be able to get pretty cheap, and I think fits in decently for the Wild. I saved him till last because I think he is probably the most logical fit. He's a right-handed shot, but he can play on the left side if needed. So either side you want to throw him on, he's able to work when it comes to either side of the wing. But he's familiar with the division. He's played in Nashville, so it's not like he's going to maybe turn his back to the city of Minnesota or to the city of St. Paul, turn his back on Minnesota and say, I don't want to go there. I'm not, I'd rather be out in Florida, or, frankly, maybe he would. The state income tax is a big thing, I know, with a lot of players these days. But Victor Arvidsson, my last forward on the list.
I salivate at the idea of this because he is looking at as he could be a 60-point scorer, right? Like he's got all the talent. I think he's going to want more though still. I think he's going to be looking at 1 year for $3 million or looking at 3 years at 4 per, right? He's worth it. He absolutely is 100% worth it. So even despite the injury, I think teams are going to know that because there's so much upside to him. I would love if Bill Guerin could swing for this one. I do. I think he'd be a great fit, as you'd mentioned, Age. I just think he's going to be spendier than maybe some people might project. I just feel like he's got that value to do it. So I wouldn't mind spending maybe a little bit, but as Judd's going to probably point out, and I'm sure I'd agree, not this year. It doesn't need to be this year.
Does the age scare you? Considering you just basically said, don't sign anyone over 30 and then started to immediately make exceptions for a few guys.
Only for a few guys.
I know,
He's so good. He's so fun to watch.
Yeah.
He's so fun. David Perron is not a fun guy to watch. He looks old out there because he is old. All right?
Arvidsson,
don't ever bring that name up to me ever again.
I think he gets paid more. I'll never forget the day that the Wild signed Thomas Vanek. And yes, I'm going back to a bad day. But anyway, they did an immediate press conference with Chuck Fletcher that day. And I'll never forget, I went to it. And, you would have thought that Chuck would be happy, right? He got a player. And at that time, it had been like 3 years of, they're going to get Vanek. They're going to get Vanek. And they got him. And I walked in and Fletcher was in the worst mood. And he started to bitch immediately about how teams are just, not financially cautious. They just spend like July 1st is because I forget who, but he had his eyes on like 3 guys, including Vanek, and he hadn't gotten like 2 of them. I think that Wild was trying to re-sign, if I'm not mistaken at the time, Willie Mitchell, perhaps. And he got paid, and Fletcher was just livid about the day. So, but I mean, it remains true, even with a cap, you do see teams that make investments and you're like, is that really smart? And Arvidsson, I think, Jessi, you're exactly right. I think he's going to fall into he probably should get a make good contract, but he won't. Just takes one team to be like, here's 4 years. We think you'll be fine. So
you're amazing.
You're probably right, Jess.
Yeah.
All right, we'll turn our attention to the blue line here for 2 guys. First one from the Kings, Matt Roy, 29 years old. He's a right-handed shot. He's regarded by some as a PK specialist, and I'm going to use that term lightly because his PK numbers are all right. But he's expected to stay under $3 million, and this is a deal where I think on draft day, and this is something Judd and I talked about last week when you weren't on the show, Jessi, but is there a draft day deal where I know you were.
Thanks. That's fine. Yeah. No, whatever. I'm not bitter about it at all. You guys recorded on a Wednesday when you said you weren't going to record on a Wednesday.
We couldn't fit you in. You were at the golf course.
Thursday, not Wednesday. I took off all my Wednesdays so I could be here with you. It's fine.
Oh, well then it's our fault. I'm sorry.
I'm glad we could hash that out.
Take this out on Mike, not us. We're innocent.
But yeah, Matt Roy, he's a right-handed shot. 5 goals, 20 assists last season on the LA Kings blue line, and if they want to make some sort of deal where I know we're potentially talking about it here, but if they move on from a certain Middleton man, then why not get Matt Roy in the lineup after they move on and potentially sweeten the deal for some trade or something like that, and Matt Roy steps in quite nicely.
They need to figure out defense for sure, without question, and that's where some of your gaping holes are. And as we've talked about pretty consistently on here, it's not down in Iowa, right? Unfortunately, those defensemen aren't quite panning out. Be a tough offseason for the Kings to lose Arvidsson and Matt Roy to the Minnesota Wild, but you know what? Why not? I'd be willing to take a risk. To be honest, I don't know as much about him to be fully 100% chips in. Let's take a look. But again, kick the tires, because defense is a huge concern of mine coming up into this season for sure.
Yeah, especially the bottom pairing, right? Like
Yes.
that's a huge question mark. I feel like the top four with Spurgeon back are in decent shape. I think Brock is going to break the bank, which is, great for him. Congratulations. And he should. But yeah, the bottom pairing really concerns me. And so, yeah, this definitely intrigues me. Now, again, the price point becomes the most important thing, because I'm not sure, again, he might get paid more than we expect. But this probably seems like the most realistic scenario of trying to replace some of what you had there at the bottom with a guy like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not sexy, but
No.
it's necessary at some point, if not now, next year.
Still better
The
than
last-
Perron.
The last
Oh,
name
I'm
on the
with you.
list is
Geriatrics out.
maybe going to be the best or worst depending on who you are. He's very familiar with the state of Minnesota, as
Say
he
it.
was here for
Do
quite a
it.
bit.
Do it.
29-year-old Matthew Dumba,
Yeah. Yep.
making
Bring him
a
in.
triumphant return to the state of hockey. He's expected to take a decent pay cut after
He
a
will,
rough
too.
season.
I
And
guess.
if he came back here to play with his buddy Brodeen, I bet you can get him for pennies on the dollar.
Do it.
No,
Matt
Sign
Dumba.
the dotted line,
No.
baby. Let's go.
no, don't do this. Don't
Do
you
it.
do it. And then I'm going to have to see
talking
Dumba
about-
paired with Brodeen. No.
Nope. He'll be making the league min for $1 million. Bill Guerin loves him. They're bringing him back, baby. He loves it here.
Do you want him back?
I wouldn't mind him back.
I mean, beyond being a good quote.
After seeing the bottom pairings that we were forced to watch last year, I have zero problem bringing Matt Dumba back. And I think that's what people forget. There is some upside to Matt Dumba. I'm not saying put Matt Dumba back in the top four. I'm not saying for him to take Brock Faber out, but 100% I have zero problem with Matt Dumba being a bottom pair. And I think Matt Dumba would be fine with that too. I think he recognizes his value as of right now. It was a tough, God, he didn't sign with Arizona until what, August of last year? Like right before camp.
Yeah.
And he
then
still
got
got
traded.
paid then. And that was great for him. But I think he knows that he's looking at a smaller salary. And I think Bill Guerin would welcome him back. And maybe, you know what? Maybe you get Matt Dumba of better years, of yesteryears, if you
No,
will.
It's
You
over.
might.
Kachuk
might.
ruined his career. Matthew ruined his
might.
career. That arm fell out and it's never coming back.
For $1 million though, his upside's enough.
Yeah.
Like I'll take that. For
So-
if he's gonna get $1 million, I'm in.
What's the blue line depth chart right now? Spurgeon and Jake, Brodeen and Faber, Chisholm, who's going to come back, I think, and whom?
So right now, under
No,
contract, it's Spurgeon, Brodeen, Middleton, Bogosian, Merrill,
Bogosian.
Faber.
Okay, so
And-
Bogosian, and they love Bogosian.
Yeah.
I love Bogosian.
So like
So
we're-
much so they got an extension.
yeah,
He got an extension.
yeah. Everyone gets an extension. Everyone gets a no move. Come on, it's like candy. We'll throw them out. Yeah, that's my question. Is what? So if you re-sign Dumba, and I mean you could use more depth. Is he just a depth guy? And would he come back here to be a depth guy? Because Declan Chisholm, in my opinion, should play.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think they found a guy there, which is a nice find. Congratulations to the scouting staff. But they love Bogosian. They sort of see him again as a guy. I mean, I thought they'd trade him. Like he struck me as a deadline guy. Hey, go play for a team. You've been on Stanley Cup teams. But I guess my question is, what would be? And I'm not an advocate like you, Jessi. I agree. I don't want old guys taking up space, but I think we're stuck with that one. So
We are.
and Bogosian lives here, so he can spend the rest of his life here. Let's make him as comfortable as possible. Let's never upset the apple cart. I mean, you make Minnesota your home, then go do something else. Like I do. I do something else. I don't play hockey. Okay, I'm sorry about that. So Dumba, yeah, I mean, I guess if you stuck him back here as a depth guy, and then there will be guys who get hurt.
happening.
So
Yeah, I think that's the thing, though, is if he comes
You're
back,
right.
you'd have to lay out plain and simple. We do want you, but in a specific limited
Popcorn guy.
role.
you'd be a popcorn guy.
You are you're going to tape up Kirill's sticks every now and again. You're going to get a couple games here and there, but you're
go
also
sit
going to
by
be
Jess.
hospitality.
Go
We-
hang
we
out
have,
with
Press
you know,
box.
You're going to do the Let's Play Hockey. You're going to give a great quote
Let's
to Jesse
Jessi
Pierce in the
down.
locker room. Yeah, yeah, that's true.
She MC stuff, does the Let's Play Hockey. No one's asked me to do that. Let's play hockey.
You know,
Say
once in
say
a
it with
while.
me loud and proud. Let's
Yep.
try tonight. That's what I do. I pull an audible. Let's not crap the bed.
Stay
Shocking
with
you
me,
haven't been
skate,
asked.
Marcus, skate.
Yep. So anyway, so
So it sounds like my list did not please either of you.
It was
no,
it
you
was
know what?
reasonable.
It's a very good list. It's because it's not stars. It's guys that could fit in.
Yeah.
I just think this team is at a really interesting transition period, and so I'm curious. Like, does your list does Guerin say, "Damn it, I wish I could pursue a bunch of those guys," or does he say, "You know what, it's not time yet"? Because I mean, I am in the camp of it's just not time yet.
No.
It's still fun to talk about this. I love this stuff, but I feel like Jessi, it's not. I want to see the kids play as much as possible. A year from now, your prohibitive Parisi and Suter $14.7 million combined buyout drops down to 1.7 for 2025-26, and then 3 years after. So again, it's reasonable at that point. So I just think I want Bill Guerin to be in a holding pattern and wanting to develop prospects. So
I think so too, and I think that's the tough thing. Like we've mentioned, I don't want a guy for a year to sign him at free agency. You know what I mean? I'll get a rental at deadline if that's necessary. Even I can't foresee that being necessary this year. I want to toss out one guy to you. What about Teddy Bluger? He would be affordable. I
played
think
at
he's got the
Mankato?
Minnesota connection. Yes, that's his Minnesota connection. He's
I'm
in the
sorry.
Beauty League all
Minnesota
the time.
State. Oh yeah, he's in the Beauty
Minnesota-
League.
He's
So
in
he's
the Beauty League all the time.
the Beauty League, which we start
Career
next
high in
month.
assists. Starts in
He's not a bad.
season.
Yeah.
Like, right? I feel
Actually
like he
like
was
him.
one that definitely, or William Carrier. That was the other one that I was kind of like, oh.
I don't mind Bluger. I mean, I don't know a ton about him. I've seen him play a bunch of
Yeah.
times, and I like his game.
Right?
That actually makes a lot of
Swap that
sense.
one.
Yeah.
I think he would sign here for a reasonable rate.
Yeah,
unless
he
I
likes it here, I think, right? I think
miss
he
my.
would.
Everyone likes it
I mean,
here. Everyone
again,
lives here. They all live in Brainerd.
Vancouver,
like you were
though,
saying before the
Vancouver's a
show.
fun team. I would, if Vancouver can make that work, I get it. But
Yeah.
that's the one
What
name
is
that I-
what is Besser's situation like? And I know he's not a 2024-25 target at all, but what's his contractual status?
that's a good.
Let me pull up.
question.
When's he up? Because I mean,
he is up
I think he's
after
a guy-
this coming season. He's making
Okay.
6.6 this year, and then he's a UFA the following year.
Yes.
That's an interesting one to me. I mean, he's very tight with his family. His dad passing has been well documented. I think he'd probably love to come back here. He strikes me as a really good kid or a really good guy.
Yep.
And like
He
you
fit in
mentioned,
really well.
14 mil right back in the pocket of Billy G, able to
Oh
splash
yeah,
a little
a
cash.
year from now, your list will not have as many schleps as it just
Oh,
did.
I'm
is true.
throwing Steven Stamkos. I'm throwing big names next year.
Stamkos goes
Jake
back
Gensel.
to Tampa, right? Stamkos goes
I don't
back
think
to
he
Tampa.
does. I
Oh
don't.
my god,
I think he
I don't
wants to.
think
I
he
think he's going to
does.
move on.
where?
And I think Mitch Marner is going to move on from Toronto.
I think they're going to trade. Well, he's got a no trade. They're going to trade him. I think Mitch can't take the heat.
No.
Columbus. To Columbus we go.
The
What is
te-
that?
the-
They're just firing their coach. I was like, what?
Well,
What
they-
a weird news dump.
no,
that
they
was.
they just hired Don Waddell away from Carolina. They
And yeah,
just
he was
like
you're out.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So he just came in and blew that Pascal Vincent out.
Mm-hmm.
The team that everybody, because they have so much money and they're going to spend it, that everyone's associated with now, though, is Utah. A lot of
hockey
people
club,
think that
baby.
Mitch should go to the Utah Hockey Club
Yeah.
because he'd be out of sight, out of mind, and he's got the talent. I think the pressure eats him up.
Does
They're
his
so mean to
dad
poor
want to go to
Mitchie up
Utah
there.
though?
What's
His
that?
dad won't go to Utah.
Does his dad want to go to Utah?
Well,
That's
his
the real
dad's part of
question,
the
Joe.
his dad's part of the problem.
His dad's a big part of the problem.
His dad's a big part of his son's. You know, I would, if I was the team, I would tell him, you know what, we're trading for you. We don't want to see your old man.
Mm-hmm.
I would excommunicate the old man out of there. Parents, I'm honest to God, pro sports parents, leave, get out.
Yeah.
I hate when parents are around.
Weird.
Like it's great if they go to the game, like your first game, right?
Yeah.
Or
And
like
cry
you know,
for me because you're so excited. Like, yeah, that's amazing.
awesome.
Yeah,
or
lucky.
like if they come to your games, you know, if they're in town or you know, like I got no problem with that. But parents that are actually trying to influence their kids who are pros is a disgusting, despicable act for a parent. Should never be allowed.
Gross.
Mitchie's dad should get out of there. Okay, so the question is this. According to what Age told me last week, Michael Russo, who of course does a fantastic job as Jessi and AJ know covering the Wild, mentioned on one of his podcasts that, and I don't want to word this wrong, Age, so correct me, but that there was a possibility Jake Middleton, who has a year left on his contract, would return to the Wild or re-sign this summer. So he would re-sign 4 times 4. So 4 years, 16 mil.
I want to clarify this so we can put the safety gloves on and the bubble wrap just to be safe.
Yep.
This is not a concrete report, but
Right.
it was more in the sense of
A mention.
Possibility.
heard
Speculation.
of if it's going to matriculate and materialize,
Right.
it could possibly, potentially,
Thank you.
hypothetically
Thank
look
you.
like 4x4.
Right,
No,
right.
not concrete in any sense, but like that could be what it is potentially.
But Mike's got his finger on the pulse, and so like it's not just
You're not
made
throwing
up.
that out just to throw
We
it
just
out, yeah.
don't know what the parameters are exactly. Okay, I'll start off. If this involves any type of no move, no trade, I'm automatically out. And I like Jake. I'm automatically out. Seriously, I can't do any more of these. I can't tie my roster up with everyone. I mean, it's like a damn old folks home. Hey, I'm moving in the old folks home. Don't move me out of the old folks home. That's it. I'm going to die here. Okay. No, I'm done with this. Jessi and then AJ, your thoughts. I don't mind the figures. I don't love them. I don't hate them.
Yeah.
I am so sick of seeing, you know, the subsequent report that it includes a no move or no trade clause.
100%. And that goes for a number of players. I can't do that, right? We can't do that. He's making what, 2.245, I think, right now. The minutes he played this year and the way that he performed certainly allows for you to raise that. It's deserved, right? I don't hate it. You're right. I like Midzi. I just bought a Tarps Off shirt for $1 in honor of him at that big blowout sale. I'm disappointed that neither of you guys got in on that action.
I
But
got this. They were gone. I couldn't find them. I got the Gus. I got the Gus mug, $2.
He's
$10
lying
for
because
this
I was
North
there on
Star hat.
Saturday and they had them there
same.
for sure.
Yeah,
Oh,
they were
'cause
all there.
I bought a Boldy Shuffle shirt,
Oh yeah.
but all that was left were smalls, which I can't wear it. But I'm like, I like this shirt. So if I had seen the Tarps Off, I actually would have bought one. But
be
all of
moments
my
for you.
size, all the extra large or XXLs were gone. I was very upset by that.
Oh man. No, you're right. The numbers I guess I don't hate.
I don't love them. I don't hate them. But I cannot take.
Right.
I cannot take trade protection.
And because you don't really have any other defensemen, like I said, I wouldn't put Matt Dumba in a Middleton place, right? I like Middleton over Dumba as far as the depth chart goes. So sure, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if it gets done and if it comes to fruition in some or matriculates in some form, right? I think Bill Guerin loves Middleton. I think the room loves Middleton, and I think he's been a very solid addition for the Minnesota Wild. Again, the guy that was drafted right before Connor McDavid, i.e., the final draft pick selected before the year McDavid was picked. So,
Right.
yeah, good for Midzi. Why not? It'll be fine. I'd be okay.
That's not exactly a sterling recommendation.
I know.
You're like, whatever. If you're gonna say whatever, then I would. But yeah, I am. I made my position abundantly clear. Age.
Here's my thing on Jake Middleton. I'm not going to say it sickens me, but it does leave a poor taste in my mouth when I see this fan base cling on to some of the, and I'm not going to say that he's a below average player because I think he's just fine in his own right.
Yep.
But they attach themselves emotionally. They pull on their heartstrings for some players that when you want to make a playoff run, frankly, don't fit in. They don't fit in that puzzle. They're not a piece that belongs in that box.
Preach.
I don't think Jake Middleton does. So if you want to say, if you can get him paid and you want to keep him around for a year or two, and then after that when he's 30, for sure, why not? Then keep him there. But 4 years at $4 million a year, I think, given how you're going to have a lot, you're going to be more flush with cash. You're going to want to have these younger guys come up, and you're going to try to start making pushes. You're going to be more aggressive at the deadline. You're going to start looking and saying, we need to make a deep playoff run. I just don't think Jake Middleton is part of that equation as much as we love or hate him. We saw this with Dewey 1 and Dewey 2. We saw this with, how often do we see these guys where it's just like, we have to keep him around because he's a great soundbite. No offense, Jessi, or we have to,
I'm on the side with you on this one. I can't stand
I'm a
some of the
soundbite
people
guy.
that
What do you
the
mean?
team
No
we
offense.
have to make promo shirts where it looks like you're not wearing a shirt. We simply, who else is going to do it? I can't. And to your point, if this comes out and they do have a 4x4 and there's a no move clause, a no trade clause, I am going to be sick to my stomach throwing up. Jake Middleton is a perfectly fine NHL defenseman, but he just doesn't fit, to my mind, on a Minnesota Wild Stanley Cup roster in the coming future. So that's my take on that.
And you look at this last trade deadline, he would have been perfect bait, but nobody came calling, right? Because he isn't, you're absolutely right, Age. He is not a defenseman that you need for a playoff team. Zach Bogosian fits that bill. I would like a Zach Bogosian on my team, right? Jake Middleton doesn't do a whole lot for a playoff bound team.
I also think that if he insists on a no trade or no move clause, I also think that there is a good case to not sign him, take him to March, and try and make him a rental elsewhere. He would be a fine 5 or 6 on a playoff team. So I could see that. And then if you don't trade him and he stays here, we've talked about this with every Hartman, Foligno. There's no rule that you can't sign them then after the season.
Right.
I feel like this team is too proactive to jump the gun and sign guys. So oh my God, what if we lose you? Okay, you lose him. The other thing
they're not your friends.
Yes.
Well, and they're not,
that's the biggest thing.
and they're not named Connor McDavid. It's one thing to be like, oh my God, this guy. I mean, he's older now, but the Tampa Bay Lightning have allowed Steven Stamkos to explore the market. Lifelong Lightning player, a type of guy. I mean, that dude would have been signed to a 5-year extension here 3 years ago. Oh my God, we can't let Stamkos, yes, it seems harsh, but it's a business. And this need to be like last year drove us crazy, right? Hartman and Foligno and who was the third? They Zuccarello, we got to get them all set. Actually, you don't. They can all go, and in some cases they might just come back. Who cares? So, yeah, with Jake, I could actually see a very plausible, hey, in March, you're not a playoff team. He's a rental. If you like him, if you love him, he'll just come back here. He's the type of guy that you could get back. There also is the concern that we could talk about as the season approaches is Jarrett Spurgeon, the future there. I'm not saying he's not going to be traded. You can't, but he's coming off a back injury. And what was the other one?
Wasn't it back surgery too?
Yeah.
He had the same thing that Parisi had going on with kind of like that herniated disc, I think.
But they did what? Didn't they do 2 surgeries a month apart? Back and something and hip,
pectoral or shoulder or something, maybe. I can't remember. It's long since we had that discussion with him, right?
I know, but the thing there is there is no guarantee that a player that small is going to come back and look the way that he did before. So, all right, 2 more quick things here. First of all, report in Charlie Walters' column in the St. Paul Pioneer Press on Sunday. The XCEL Energy Center appears to be a thing of the past. There's a year left on the agreement, but then it sounds like the Wild is in conversations. We don't know with whom yet a couple suitors about a new naming rights deal for a building that since it opened in 2000 has been called the X. Jessi, do you care that a building that has taken on an identity for 24 years now or 25 years might be, I don't know, let's say Verizon Center or something starting in 2025-26?
No, because I'll still call it the X. I still call it Mariucci. I'm
This
not
is the
doing
dangerous
3M
thing.
at Mariucci.
Yep.
I will call it what I call it. I don't, in my write-ups, I will change the name accordingly. I mean, this has happened. There have been iterations of so many
Yes.
great places throughout the game because money talks, right? And if somebody wants to come in and buy that, that's fine. It'll probably always be the X in my brain. But no, at the end of the day, I guess it's not as crazy to me. I mean, as long as it's not incredibly silly or completely off mark or a huge mouthful, then I'd be okay.
Tom Reed's Pub
I love
Arena.
the
How
XCEL
about
Energy
that?
Center because, call it the Jessi
Oh, it's
Pierce,
perfect.
The JP. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's absolutely, yeah. Well, you buy the naming rights, they'll call it the JP.
that'd be something. What a day. No, I just want it to be shortened. Like I like being able to say the X, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's my one
XL is
stipulation.
perfect too. So,
XL's not bad.
what do you think,
Yeah.
Paige?
Yeah, I mean, whatever you do, it's similar to Twitter now being X. Everybody's gonna call it Twitter still. Everybody's gonna
Right.
call it the X. It's still the X. Where the Wild play, they play the X. I don't care that's now Smoothie King Arena. I don't care that it's it's the Bachman's Sports Center.
I feel like General
the
Mills
X.
has got to be in there somewhere. Maybe Old
Yeah.
Dutch or something like very local, like Kemp's.
Could Target just go for the clean sweep? Like
Ooh,
just added.
They could dump the basketball name and go to. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Why not? It doesn't really matter. Frankly, as long as it's somebody that's going to pay, that can then be used to further renovate and keep the facilities up to date. Don't let it become where did the Islanders used to play? The Coliseum.
Nassau County.
Nassau.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
didn't have
don't
a
let it
name, I
become a
don't think.
dump like that. Don't.
It's in no danger of being a dump.
no,
Target
but-
Center is a dump.
Yes, and that's the thing. You look across the river and you see that. Whatever it is, just if it's going to benefit the team, go ahead and do that. I don't care about the name.
Are they undergoing renovations, or wasn't that just approved, or it's in some approval process?
If they got the money, yes,
Earlier this spring, I think, right?
they were trying to add a loading dock for concerts. I think they have 2 and they wanted 3 now because that's the norm. And if you're trying to get shows, that becomes a big deal. But I can't see how, unless it's dirt cheap to play there, I don't know how Target Center ever beats out the X for a show because the X is acoustically superior. It's going to seem weird. You know what, though? I would never be the second name. I would never want to be the second. So, like, if you replace the X, I mean, it's 25 years. It's 25 years of being XCEL Energy Center. You know how long it's going to take to change? And I know that you get, like, credit in the paper, in the write-ups and stuff, or online. But, yeah, that's last question. Last question. The season is still not done. As we record this on Tuesday, the season is still not done. Should there be an end date to the National Hockey League season that is before late June, Jessi Pierce?
Yes. Because then you're bumping right into the draft. You're bumping into free agency, as we had mentioned. But I think the Cats will get it done tonight. Anyway. Go Cats.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Wait, so what would be the proposal to like shorten that up though? Like
Beginning of
like
June.
set-
I want it that first week of
Anything.
June.
Anything.
Like-
Cut down
like you're-
regular season games. Cut down
Yeah.
Cut down something. Don't take long breaks. Don't have these stupid bye weeks, which are the most ridiculous
yeah.
things of all time. Don't take
Well, and
so.
that's just gonna get worse now when you've got Four Nations and the Olympics, right?
know.
Like that's gonna be it.
Well, the
usually-
Olympic thing drives me nuts.
I think you could do. What if you shortened the first round, right? 5, best of 5.
It used to be
instead of
best of 5.
7. Yeah, exactly. Like go back to that kind of format, maybe.
The regular
And
season
just
should be
yeah.
shortened. It's all financial now. There's no reason to play 82 games.
well, I get paid for all the games that they play at home, so as long as they stay
You're
with
just-
41 at home,
You're contributing to
That's
the
good.
problem.
that's good.
You're not helping
I
the
agree.
problem.
Like you lose interest. Like right now, it's the finals, and certainly help that Florida jumped out to such a lead, but it's like I don't know. I'm kind of just ready for it to be done. Like you want
Yeah.
to move on with the year. You're wanting to move on with the off season. Not to mention consider the players too, right? Like how yes, you
Yes.
want a short season, but it's still that's tough. Like that's a hard turnaround for them.
It's almost like a chore to win the cup because you're going so
Yeah.
deep, and all of a sudden now your vacation is cut in half or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Short regular season. How about this? Start a smidge earlier. Shorten the regular season for revenue dollars in season or not in season. Like or what is it? The bubble tournament type thing to get in for the fringe bubble teams. And then shorten to best
You
of
wanna do
5 first round. Play-in tournament. Thank you. Play-in tournament.
That's coming.
Play-in. Yeah.
Play-in
when
tournament for
Bettman's
revenue
gone.
stuff.
Bettman is anti that, but they will copy basketball the second that guy walks out the door. So you're exactly right about that, Age. All right, great stuff, guys. Jessi Pierce, AJ Judd. We will be back next week on Wednesday, so Jessi can join us again.